No, we don't have any public comment today.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is the Audit Committee of the Gainesville City Commission, April 20th, 2022. We're glad you're all with us. We've got two discussion items on our agenda today, so if you'd like to speak to either of those items or both, you can fill out one of our comment cards. You can find those next to the entryway on both sides, and just give those to our clerk, Ms. Kessler, and then she will call people up in the order that she receives the cards when it comes time to take public comment on those. So with that, is there a motion to adopt our agenda? Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Wait, I've got a comment on the agenda.
No.
Why? I mean,
Because it's administrative, per our rules. Did we vote? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? That motion passes. And then approval of the minutes from March 7th. Were there any additions, corrections, or is there a motion to approve? Motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? That motion passes as well. All right, so our first item for discussion today is the GRU FY21 audited financial statements and the independent auditor's report. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our internal auditor, Ms. Bigby, who will introduce our guest from Baker Tilly.
Thank you, Mayor. The firm Baker Tilly is the external financial statement auditor for our city's utility. Bethany Ryers will be presenting the reports. Baker Tilly is one of the top 10 advisory, tax, and assurance firms in the nation. Bethany Ryers is a director in its energy and utilities team, which consists of over 60 individuals who specialize in serving over 600 energy and utility municipalities. Ms. Ryers counts among her clients some of the largest public power systems in the United States, and she has helped them with implementing the latest GASB standards. Please welcome Ms. Ryers.
Okay, Ms. Ryers, glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to talk through the results of Gainesville Regional Utilities 2021, fiscal year 2021 audit. Can everyone see my screen?
We sure can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So as part of your audit packet, you receive the audited financial statements for GRU, which includes our audit opinion, which is at the front of the document. In addition, you receive a separate report that is the Audit Insights and Results Report, which includes a lot of detailed information specific to the audit, including what our responsibility is as your auditors, what management's responsibilities is related to the audit, as well as some very detailed information that we are required to communicate to you as the governing body of GRU. So it's that report that I'm going to summarize as part of this presentation. There's a lot of additional detailed information in that report. So as you have the time, as you go through it in more detail, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Dan LaHaye, who is the manager on the engagement. Our contact information is included in that report as well as in this presentation. Ultimately, we do work for the board. We work for the audit committee. And we want to hear from you throughout the year, not just during audit time, especially if you have any concerns or any questions specific to the audit. So I'm going to go through that report in a summarized detail, including the required communication, talk through briefly the impact of some future accounting standards, and then of course, I'm here to answer any questions that you have related to the Audit Insights and Results Report or the audited financial statements. First, I'd like to go through briefly our responsibilities as your auditors. So the audit is meant to provide reasonable assurance to stakeholders that the financial statements are free of material misstatement and prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards, or GAAP. GAAP for the utilities includes standards issued by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. In addition, GRU follows the Uniform Chart of Accounts of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, which is best practice in the utility industry and provides the detailed information necessary for rate-making purposes. So reasonable assurance, as I mentioned, is a high level of assurance related to the audit. We use a risk-based approach where we assess the risks of material misstatement and focus more time on areas of greater risks. And then we design our procedures based on that risk assessment. Ultimately, management is responsible for the preparation of the financial statements and footnotes. Our responsibility is to review those financial statements, test the information included to ensure that it is properly reported in accordance with governmental accounting standards. In addition, management is responsible for the internal control structure of the utilities. Our responsibility is to review the internal controls and procedures related to the financial statement items and communicate to the governing body if we note any control deficiencies that rise to the level of a significant deficiency or material weakness. We do not provide an opinion related to internal controls. In addition, as part of the audit, we review the appropriateness of accounting policies and significant accounting estimates that are included in the financial statements. Finally, we express an opinion that states the financial statements are free of material misstatement and presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As part of our audit scope, we focus on key transaction cycles, which we'll discuss on the next slide. We focus also on areas with significant estimates, and that includes the fair market value of the derivative instruments that you have in your financial statements, pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities, unbilled revenues, the allowance for doubtful accounts, and coal inventory. Those are discussed in a little bit more detail in that audit insights and results report. In addition, we spend time reviewing the implementation of any new accounting standards, of which there were none in the current year. But as you'll notice in a future slide, there's quite a few coming up that will keep everyone very busy. In addition, as part of the audit, we focus our attention on material items. Materiality in the financial statements does include a quantitative and qualitative aspect. So we focus more of our time on those items we consider material and those items that have more risk. So here's the key financial segments that we review as part of the audit. GRU, or the utilities, follows GASB 62 related to regulatory accounting. So we do review the regulatory items and the appropriateness of that accounting as part of the audit. In addition to the items that are listed here that we perform substantive testing for, we also test control specifically over disbursements and payroll. And as part of our testing, we noted no exceptions for the items tested for controls. Overall, the audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, which provides reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. The financial statements did receive an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, and the highest level of assurance that we can provide as your auditors. In addition, as I mentioned, we review procedures and controls over key financial items as part of the audit. And there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in controls that came to our attention as part of the audit, which is a testament to the quality of your accounting and finance department at the utilities. It takes quite a bit of effort to prepare that large packet of financial statements and footnotes, and also ensure that it is materially correct and contains all the materially correct financial statement footnotes. So as I mentioned, there's a good 5 pages in that audit insights and results report that includes our required communication to those charged with governance to yourself. I will say I normally joke that it's a good thing to read if you ever have insomnia because it's pretty bland and it tends not to change much from year to year. So I'll just cover any changes from the prior year or any items to note. You will notice there is the listing of accounting significant estimates that are included in that section, as well as a statement that Baker Tilly agrees with the utilities' accounting policies and disclosures. In the current year, we had 2 audit adjustments that were noted as part of the audit. Both were corrected by management, and both individually and collectively were immaterial to the overall financial statements. There were no other audit findings or concerns, and nothing really to note as it relates to the audit. Moving on, as you can see, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board has been very busy recently. There will be a couple of standards that will affect the utilities next year, including leases and GASB 89 for capitalized interest, as well as potentially GASB 93 related to the LIBOR rate, which is going away, which the utilities uses for, I believe, an interest rate swap. The utilities is currently in the process of reviewing the impact of these new accounting standards. And of course, we're always available if they have any questions to discuss as they delve in. And I know I'm an accountant at heart, and I love talking about governmental accounting standards. So if you do have any detailed questions related to any of these upcoming standards, please don't hesitate to ask. I do tend to drone on, so I will just plan on passing by for now. But if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. In addition, in the Audit Insights and Results Report, there is a link to our website, which does have other Audit Committee resources, articles and the like about key topics that are in the news right now, all the grants that are out there currently and proper accounting, as well as information technology issues. So if you do have have the time, please don't hesitate to click the link and see what all is out there. It's all free and just information that is available for you. So that's really all I have for you. It was a very clean audit. We worked remotely again this year, which we've gotten pretty good at. The client, as always, was very responsive to our questions and helped us quite a bit throughout the audit. I know we spend probably over 500, 600 hours on the audit, doing the detail testing as well as review of the financial statements. And the folks at the utilities likely spend double or more of that time preparing for the audit, putting together the financial statements, including all the documents that they prepare for testing and answering all of our detailed questions. So we do appreciate all of their time and effort to prepare this report. And again, we do look forward to, we want to hear from you throughout the year. So our contact information is included if you do have any questions as you go into the detail financial report and Audit Insights and Results report. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Reyes. Probably not so much a question for you, but Ms. Bigby and GRU finance staff. With the GASB changes, I am assuming, but just I think want to say it out loud to make sure. Those are things we track and work to incorporate sort of in real time as they sort of go live and we're under those new requirements. And so these are not things that are catching us by surprise or anything like that. They'll just be sort of worked in as they come. Yeah, Ms. Rasnick, do you mind just speaking? I just think more for assurance of our customers and public that we're keeping abreast of those changes.
I have a question for Auditor. I hope they didn't drop offline.
I have no idea. But Ms. Rasnick, if you can answer that question.
Sure, absolutely. For leases, we've been tracking that for a few years now. That was a standard that was being spoken about for several years. So Lynn Loria, our controller, has been managing that process and that project for the utility, and he's assisting general government as well for the lease portion. That's a pretty heavy lift in order to get the leasing standard in place. The accounting for the interest incurred before end of a construction period will impact the FY23 budgeting process. So we'll talk about that when we come back for the O&M cost in May. Conduit debt is not applicable to the utility. It's applicable to general government. So for the utility, I'm not speaking about that today. And Omnibus 2020 is not applicable, and the interfund bank offered rates, that's something we're tracking as well. So working with Baker Tilly, they provide information to us, but the accountants and the accounting staff keep up with the standards through training, through CPE, to make sure that they understand what's coming down, when it's applicable, and what needs to be completed inside of the records, and also training opportunities. What we actually do at the utility, which is, I think, is really good, some of the senior accountants research the GASB standards, which also helps them to understand it. So it's taken very seriously within the accounting division and the finance division of the utility, and also at general government. So we're working through those things at general government. So I'm answering for both sides, actually. So thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that update, Mr. Rasnick. Appreciate it. Are there any questions at this time? Commissioner Sacco, Member Monk? No questions at this time. Okay, then Madam Clerk will turn it over to anybody from the public that signed up to speak.
Nathan Scott?
And may I, before I begin, Mayor Poe, may I please have the overhead? And my questions are all going to be directed to the auditor, just to confirm some initial information. Good afternoon, Nathan Scott. So on page 5 of the audited financials, it shows long-term debt in the amount of 1.889 and 687, excuse me, 1,889 and 687. If they could reconcile that number with the long-term debt number shown at 1.7 billion on page 10, there seems to be a discrepancy there. I'm trying to get a better understanding looking at this on the fly. So there's a difference in that number. I'd like to confirm on page 47 that the total aggregate debt service obligation for the utility currently is $2.134 billion over the time span provided on page 47. I'd like to get clarification on that. And then finally, and most importantly, I'd like to understand the auditor's perspective as to GRUCOM, because GRUCOM continues to require transfers from the rate stabilization to balance its annual budget. So its revenues insufficient to cover its expenses. And as a former state utility regulator, we heard a lot of qualifications early on. Well, you know, what do I know? I've got a couple degrees and was a former state utility regulator, but I am concerned about cross-subsidization of GRU customers, because when you commingle money the way it's being commingled, and this isn't generating the revenue that it needs to be, at what point are the other utility systems and customers of those systems unjustly subsidizing a telecom, GRUCOM, that's practically insolvent? It can barely cover its debt service obligations, not to mention it's not contributing to the general fund transfer. So I would like to bring the auditor's attention to that and get some specific explanation. And also with respect to the disposition of utility assets. We have a utility asset that's carried at whatever book value, whether it be $1, $5,000, a peppercorn. But now we have GRU being told to give the city, for a no-fee transfer, an asset owned by the utility for no consideration. That's not equitable to GRU customers that have paid for that asset. I don't dispute that the asset should be transferred, and we're talking about Bulaware Springs, the facilities there, because the ongoing maintenance costs can be borne by the city. But there should be some consideration paid for that transfer, whether it be a peppercorn, whether it be $1, whether it be a penny, whether it be the book value of the assets that's on GRU's regulatory books. You can't just indiscriminately throw an asset to the city and just say, hey, GRU customers, you got to make up the difference. That's not good regulatory rate-making policy, and it's not good governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Actually, I don't think we have any others signed up for this item unless there's someone else who would like to speak.
Okay,
That's all.
very good. So if we could turn back, I don't know if Ms. Riles, if you were able to jot all those down. I think there are 3 questions, two that might be germane. The 2 total debt numbers, and then the second was the item on page 47.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to follow, but I got a little lost there in the middle. The first question related to the MD&A. I'm looking up in our file right now to make sure I can answer it correctly. As
Ms. Rasnick's coming forward as well. She might be able to
oh, sorry,
help you out.
perfect.
So if I could get the overhead, please. Page 5, correct. There's a question.
Yes, page 5 versus page 10.
Okay, so the long-term debt that you see in the center of the page, that is, sorry, my eyes are 1,889,687. That's the total long-term debt. That includes the long-term portion of the revenue bonds, the bond premium and discount, and the fair value piece. So in the balance sheet itself, it's detailed. In the MD&A, it's totaled. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then
Page 65.
65.
The total concern about Groupon. Just subsidization, cross-subsidization.
65?
85, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what page?
Was it 45 that you said?
85.
85.
85.
Well-
Okay.
Yeah.
So I believe the question is surrounding the telecommunications system and cross-subsidization. Ms. Ryers, do you want me to take this one, or would you like to?
I think it's probably more appropriate for you to take this one
Okay.
because it relates to more of a forecast than the audited numbers.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ryers. So the telecommunications system, we've been talking to the Audit Committee for several years now that there's been some struggles within GRUCOM itself. So over the past 2 years, there have been inter-fund loans into that system. Let's see, it's about 4.8 million, and we talked about this when we went through our budget discussion on credit, liquidity, and reserves. So because the forecasted reserve deficits within the telecommunications system are quite significant moving forward. The finance group at the utility, working with the general manager last year, noted a significant turn in those reserves, and we hired a consultant to take a look at the asset infrastructure and also the revenue forecast, et cetera. That was discussed at the meeting in February with the full commission, and we are waiting for the results of that report. It's currently going through some back and forth with the finance group and with the telecommunications officer and the general manager. So the telecommunications system cannot cover all of its costs. So that's the piece that the utility and the commission and the various members of the audit committee have been aware of for several years. But going forward, we do need to take a look at that. And I believe the Mr. Mayor directed that the general manager come back with information on that in May. But I think that's been shifted to June just because to the volume of work related to the telecommunications system. Now that I've said all that, the telecommunications system is critical to the operations of the utility, and it's critical to the city. We use that network, so we have to figure out something to do with that system while maintaining that infrastructure. So that's the work that's being done because it is incredibly important for the operations of the city, the utility, but also we have other customers like the county that uses it as well. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and so the last time we had a deep discussion about this, the sort of way forward was there were going to be sort of an analysis and some recommendations on how we might take advantage of the asset we have, but also address some of the financial challenges that have been incurred over that period of time. If I could summarize.
The last question was Delaware Springs no fee transfer off Jerry's books.
Yeah, that's not about the audit. I mean, that's a policy issue that we'll discuss coming up in the future. But it's not about the audit. That's not something that's happened. This was 21 audit. So this is about the past, which that did not happen in fiscal year 21. Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't ask Ms. Rasnick to come back up. I could also ask the auditor. As far as the need for GRUCOM, as we were talking with earlier in the week of we don't have our own telecommunications system, does that heighten the risk that we put our utility and our own services at? Because if we handle it ourselves, it is safer. Sorry, I was too far from the mic. So I was going to ask if it emphasizes the importance of GroupCom, that we need our own cybersecurity, and by having our own system that we operate on, it keeps us a little safer than if we went out to a third party. So it is very vital to the safety of the city.
That's correct. The asset infrastructure is incredibly important to the city. The operations of the system itself aren't covering the full costs. So recognizing that we need the infrastructure, the city needs the infrastructure, while also trying to figure out how to deal with the losses in the telecommunications system. So that's what the work's been done, to take a look at what that is. And again, we're going through a back and forth with the consultant asking questions and those sorts of things to bring it back to the commission.
Thank you, Ms. Resnick. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation was to hear the auditor's report and recommend that the full commission accept the audit. Commissioner Sacco?
I move that we recommend the report to the full commission.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Riles, for all your work on this. I know it's not easy. It's quite a heavy lift, and we have quite a complicated utility. But we're glad that we got the work done, back to us on time, and available for the full commission's approval. And thanks to our staff that helped assist with this. Sounds like the process went as it should have. Okay, up next, our second discussion item is a memorandum that came from the city manager regarding general government financial services update and the status of the general government external financial audit. This is part of our ongoing effort to keep the commission and the public apprised of how we're addressing the audit findings. We want to do this on a periodic basis, and when certain items have been fully addressed, we'll let you know that. When they've been when they're still in process, so we'll let you know that, and we'll try to let you know to our best of our abilities what the timeline is to address all of these various items. And so, Ms. Bigby, with that, I will turn it over to you, and then I know that we have our city manager here as well.
Thank you, Mayor, Audit Committee members. The Finance Department is working very hard to address 3 different audit reports. They're the external financial statement audit reports for the general government, the Auditor General findings, and an internal audit, internal controls over financial reporting. As part of that process, the Utility Finance Department has been working double shifts trying to help general government build up their finance department. In the Audit Committee, we're quarterly going to present Auditor General updates on the 18 findings. But today, the city manager is going to give updates from her department that will provide you a lot more information on the status of the general government finance strengthening. So I'd like to introduce City Manager, Ms. Curry.
Hey, welcome, Ms. Curry. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. This is an update from General Government Financial Services based on the audits that have occurred from the State Auditor General, as well as additional findings by the city's internal auditor. As reported at the last Audit Committee meeting, we are in a mobilization. We're actually mobilized to address the audit findings starting in January. The city engaged Carr, Riggs, and Ingram to assist with stabilizing the General Government Financial Services Department Accounting Division. And in addition to that, we called on the Gainesville Regional Utilities, GRU, to utilize expertise in that department to help the General Government Financial Services Department, specifically in the Accounting Services Division. General Government's internal controls over financial reporting have been documented since fiscal year 2018 by our external auditors, Gray Robbins, as having significant weaknesses. Those findings actually continued in 2019 and 2020. We now have the support of our external consultants, Carr, Riggins, Carr Riggs and Ingram, and of course the support from GRU, working with staff to address the weaknesses in the department and work on those weaknesses. I believe we're making good progress. We actually met with the commissioners during the week of March 28th, along with Ms. Claudia Rasnick, who is the acting finance director, along with Ms. April Shuping of Carr Riggs Ingram, to go into a little bit more detail about things that have been identified, issues that have been identified, and how we are working to correct them, and specifically as addressed in the memo that you have, which is a synopsis of what we went through in those earlier meetings, dealing with timely bank reconciliations, monthly closing of financial activities, all of which, of course, get us ready for the audit for 21. Timely and accurate completion of external audits and reports, standard operating procedures for the accounting division, significantly outdated, and workday configuration and implementation issues that have also made it more difficult for us to actually get the audit in process. In addition to a culture of silos, as we've identified within the Financial Services Department over the past 5 years, actually, this has also limited a collaborative approach to problem solving in the department. In order to move forward, we have some recommendations that have been identified in the memorandum that you have. These are being made not only by CRI, but also our staff that has been mobilized to support CRI. Adequate and sufficient time must be allowed to focus on researching and correcting the accounting and subsidiary ledger records. Ensuring proper training is provided to staff throughout the department so that corrections can properly be made to procedures and sustained over time. The city auditor's audit plan has to be adjusted to allow us to focus on that so that that staff that is there can focus on fixing the issues. Recruiting and hiring staff that is governmental accounting and finance experience with necessary qualifications such as a CPA designation and years of experience, and evaluating the need for additional positions to support accounting and finance operations in future years and in the grants and accounting and payroll, and in other areas. I'd like to say that as we have worked towards trying to make sure that our staff is in place, we did recruit, as I had mentioned in an earlier reorganization memo, we did recruit for a controller. We've identified that individual, and we are in the process of hiring that individual now. We've also interviewed for finance director candidates, and we are in the process of making an offer in that situation. So we are moving forward with identifying staff. I know we will have a presentation in a few moments by April Shuping as it relates to what is happening with bank reconciliations and getting our financial statements in order. Bank reconciliations actually come first. I believe we're about 75 to 80% through that process. And in terms of making sure that we're working with our departments to make sure that they understand what their roles are in that process, I believe we're probably about 80 to 90% through that process, working with departments to make sure they understand what they are required to do as well. This is a time-consuming process. We had a lot of bank reconciliations to go through in terms of a backlog. And as we have shared with each individual commissioner, it will take some time. I know we had findings in 18, 19, and 20. 21 has come and gone. We clearly will have findings in 21. We are in 22, and so we will probably have some findings in 22. And in 23, we would hope that we would be stabilized with minimal findings and in a position of stability. And with that, Ms. Bigsby, I don't know whether we would ask Ms. Shuping to come forward or whether you would want to introduce her.
Sure, please introduce her, would you? Ms. Shuping from CRI. April Shuping is a partner at CRI, and she's management's consultant, and she also has an update for the items that she's been working on. So please welcome Ms. Shuping.
Thank you, Ms. Shuping. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, April Shuping, Carr Riggs and Ingram. And if we could put the slides back up for a second. Oh, there's a couple we were going to speak to. And just back up maybe one more and one more. Perfect, thank you. All right, so it's been a while since I've been up here. I'm happy to be back. Happy to be helping the city. This is a quick update on where we are. Sometime in December, I was contacted by the city to see if the firm would be able to maybe come in and assist a little bit with stabilization and getting the city ready for its 2021 audit. And so in December, I came back, started to kind of assess the situation, saw that an ERP had been implemented mid-year during 2021, which is a pretty significant change in any finance department. It's a big lift anywhere that happens. And realized that probably it was a little beyond my scope of being able to handle, especially to try to keep in mind the taxpayers' money, to keep the external billings as minimal as possible. That's when I got with the city manager to see if we could have tap into some of the resources you had at GRU Finance. Luckily, they agreed to, the city manager and the general manager agreed to bring the GRU staff in under a service level agreement so that they could help as well to really just leverage that resource you already had internally in the organization. And so as a team effort, including the staff within finance as well, we started tackling, really assessing the situation and tackling the issues. The first thing we wanted to look at is getting the 2021 audit ready to go. Let's get the auditors in, let's go. And we realized we really couldn't do that yet. We had some I call them triage. We had some triage projects we really had to handle before we could assess the bigger picture. And some of that was because of this ERP implementation mid-year. We had, it just added an extra level of complexity to everything that we were looking at. We had 2 different systems, 2 different control processes, and then the conversion of 9 months of data from one system into the new system. And so that just really, it just made everything a lot more complicated to really look back and assess as compared to just coming into a normal year and saying, oh, we're just going to adjust a few things and get things tidied up and give them to the auditors. And so we realized this was really a big lift for this year. So meeting with all of the different areas, we identified kind of the fires that needed to be put out before we could step back and look at the big picture process. GRU came in to help with the day-to-day going forward, to help with the leadership in the department, to help give guidance on a daily basis in the department. I was really looking backwards. They were helping look forward. So looking backwards, I saw that we had the first really hot topic was getting the general pension and OPEB numbers to the GRU auditor so that the statement you just saw today could get out on time. And so that was a kind of a big project to go back to some source documents so that we could get those created in a way that was really understandable and auditable for GRU's auditors, because those are pretty big numbers in GRU's financials. And so you can see those were our first 2 ones that we took care of, was the general pension draft, retiree health draft. Then you had some federal and state reports for GPD that were very time sensitive, and that the city was getting a lot of pressure to get out to continue to get those funds. And so we were able to help GPD get those reports submitted as well. CRA had a statutory deadline to get some numbers and a report they had to send out by March 31st, so we were able to do that as well. So we had these really tight timelines on some things that were very urgent that we just sort of had to focus, doing things in a broad way is probably most efficient, but these were some things that had to be handled in a piecemeal way to meet the needs of the city. And then we saw, as we were kind of going through this, addressing the bank reconciliation situation. Again, exacerbated by the new ERP, as when the ERP went in, and again, sorry, I should back up. An ERP is an enterprise reporting program or something like that. It's basically your computer system that keeps all of your records, all of your financial records for the city. So every time we process payroll, every time we pay someone, every time we take money in, that goes in your ERP. Thousands of transactions every day are happening within your system. It's how vendors get paid, it's how people get paid. So when we talk about an ERP implementation, it touches every department of the city, and all of the numbers we work with come out of that. Part of that ERP implementation changed your process for how the cash receipts were put into your system. And so mid-year we had this change. As you know from the prior last few years of audit reports, the bank reconciliations have been a problem for a few years. This just made them a little bit more complicated, a little more difficult. And we had a finance team who, I got to say, is doing an amazing job. The accountants you have on staff right now have been doing yeoman's work, right? I mean, they've just been really trying their hardest, and they just didn't have the tools they needed to get these reconciliations done. So we stepped back to try to figure out what changes can we make going forward so the system can actually do 90% of the work itself without making your accountants tick and tie thousands of transactions every month. But to go back and fix the back stuff, we brought our data analytics team in to help with some of the splits of the data. And they were able to give those tools to the accountants so that we were about 90% of the way getting our bank recs done through September 30th. Really now we're just looking at kind of these little miscellaneous things we're trying to figure out and dealing with some carry forward issues from prior years that are still really kind of hard to determine. So the good news is the transactions are hitting the system right. In most cases. There's a few that we noticed that just some automatic fees and things that weren't ever being recorded, but the money coming into your system is hitting your books. The money going out is hitting your books. So the actual flow of money looks like it's happening correctly, but part of what we have to do is make sure that it is. And I think now we are able to do that. Going forward, these bank reconciliations with the processes that your departments happily implemented are going to be a lot more efficient, a lot faster. And so we feel really good about where the bank reconciliations are going. We haven't gotten September 30th, 2021 fully reconciled yet because we do have some carry forward issues from prior years and the beginning of this year before the ERP was put in. But we do know that July 1st through September 30th, all of your big transactions are hitting your system properly. That's very important to know when we start thinking about fraud or theft and things like that. Money that's coming in is going in the bank. The stuff in the bank is matching the stuff on your books. These are all good news. So that was a really big project that your current accountants have just done a phenomenal job working and breaking down silos within finance. So we got billing and collections and the departments all working very closely with the accountants to make this process work better. 2 more triage projects that are still on my to-do list. The Employee Health Insurance Fund financial statements. We think there may be a little bit of an issue just with some of the flow of data through the system and how it's hitting that fund. And so, as you can imagine, when we're paying payroll for all of GRU and all of general government employees, there's a lot of transactions that kind of flow all over the place. We've pulled in a reporting specialist from GRU who used to work on general government and is very familiar with the process, and she's going to help us map that out properly so that we can untangle it. Again, it's numbers more than money. I often have said I became an accountant instead of a doctor because when I mess up, nobody dies. So we can fix this. This is just numbers. This is where the numbers are. Money's not going missing. It's just hitting the account wrong. And so, but it's an untangling process. It's a big kind of knot. And then finally, just like our general pension and retiree health insurance fund, we do need to get some numbers to the actuary for our police and fire fund. The state basically ticks and ties every penny that you put on that report, so we got to make sure it's perfect. And right now, with the reliability of the data that comes directly out of your ledger and the reportings in this new system, it's not there yet. And so we're going to do a little bit of work from source documentations there as well. So that's kind of our triage. That's when you want to know why the audit's not ready to go yet, this is part of it. Is we really had these are hot things that had to be touched first in order to really do the big analysis and the big scrub of your data and get it audit ready. Next slide, please. All right, here's what's next. We do have a chart of accounts crosswalk. Obviously, you don't put in a new system if you don't. But your new system has got some really great things that aren't necessarily great for accountants. A lot of times, if anybody who's been in it, when you pull up things, it gives you words. Instead, you used to have like account numbers, right? 1004, pulled cash. Now it just says cash, right? So that's a little bit harder when we give your auditor something that they need to put in a system that handles numbers. We're going to try to get in a crosswalk that works both for people reading it who want to understand things, but also for people who are auditing it and trying to match numbers to numbers. So that's just a little project next to help the auditors get ready to more they can do before they come on site. We've got that 9 months of data conversion from your old system that was uploaded into the new system. From what we can see, and again, many of the people who were involved in this on the accounting and finance side are no longer with the city right now, so it's hard to really get the full understanding of what happened. But the documentation we can see is that some of those look like they may have had some changes. They may be correct changes, but we really need to validate that data and how it got from the old system to the new system so that we can show your auditors that it was validated. They're going to want to know that someone validated that data and that it's correct. To get numbers into an ERP, you've already got a series of controls. If I make a payment, someone has to approve it. There's got to be budget and encumbrance, right? When you're just moving numbers from one system to another, the controls that were on those numbers to go into the first system, they may be gone if someone's able to change them as they go from one system to another. So we just want to really make sure, give a little extra scrub to them, make sure they look good. Once those are validated, we have some reporting we need to work on. The out-of-the-box reporting for any ERP is a problem usually. People who make these systems are engineers and computer science people, not accountants. And so really the reports are almost never what we need. A lot of custom reports were made, but we're seeing some key areas that were missed in some of these reports. Your trial balance reports, which should have every account in them, are missing some pretty important areas for government, things like transfers to and from other funds, debt service payments. Some of those are not showing up on your trial balance. We just need to work to build those standard reports out of your system to make sure they're capturing every single account, because that's important and your auditors need to know that to be able to even start the audit. And then we have subsidiary ledger reporting that we just need to make sure is correct, that it exists and that it's correct. Things like your accounts receivable detail, who owes the city money, how long have they owed it, what fund do they owe it to. Governments have much more complicated financial reporting than a for-profit entity. And so just knowing that UF owes the City of Gainesville money is not as helpful as knowing they owe it to the general fund for a specific game on a specific date for a police overtime. We need it down to that level of detail to give to the auditors to validate the numbers on your balance sheet. So these are some things that we need to do to even get ready for the internal auditors to come in. Next slide, please. And then this is what I thought we were going to do. So this is where we get back to where, without an ERP implementation and without some of these other things, this is what we need to do to really get ready for the audit. And I think when we look at the things that were in your prior audit findings, these are the things that really we've known needed to be done. And these are a lot of your closing entries, making sure payroll was accrued properly. This is all your cutoff stuff. Did we take the day-to-day transactions that we think are hitting the system correctly, and have we adjusted them for year-end things? Some of them are basic, right? Accrued payroll is basic. GASB 34 adjustments, that's a lot of different stuff. That's moving from one method of accounting, modified accrual, to a full accrual method of accounting. That requires a lot of specialty knowledge of governmental accounting standards. There are some balance sheet accounts, your assets and liabilities, that the findings in the prior audits have noted were not really able to be substantiated well. We want to do the research and either write them off if they're not valid anymore, or be able to give the auditors a good list of what's making up those balances. And so these are just your standard year-end things that need to happen. Your findings in the last few audits have kind of shown that these are the types of things that were missed in the past, and I think this was really the intent of bringing us in to begin with. The ERP implementation just added a whole lot more on top of that. And so this we up until I think 2018, your financial statements were drafted in-house. In 18 or 19, they started being drafted by your external auditors, which is totally fine. But it is something that we may look at bringing back in-house, either with CRI at first and then training your staff. But we're going to negotiate that and work with your external auditors. I think we're both willing to do it and just figure out what's most efficient and effective for the city, at least in 2021 and 2022. Next slide, please. Okay, and so the key points I think that I would really like to share is that it took several years to get to the situation that you needed the external help to come in. I think it's going to take some time to get back to where you've got consistently reliable, kind of that day-to-day, you just know it's right kind of information in your system. The auditors come in, you guys don't hear about it till the end of the year, right? That's what we want to happen. When finance is going great, you don't hear about us. That's the goal. And so it just takes a little time. It's not an instant fix. I think it's very important to note that your current staff in finance are just doing a great job. It's very hard for them, I think, when they get some of this feedback. But your accountants, I think you have 3 right now out of, there should be about 8. Your accountants are doing great. They're working hard every day. And they're really trying to learn this new system, to do the training they need to do the hard work they need to do to get on board. And you've got several departments in finance that have been chugging along just fine without any problems, right? Your payroll, payables, your billing and collections. So there's some really good news still happening in finance. That hiring of permanent positions that the city manager referred to is a top priority. We talked early on, we have a firm of like thousands of people. We could have thrown all kind of people at this. That's not going to help. Getting your permanent long-term employees in those positions to build the knowledge, to train. I think that's the most critical thing to happen, and that has been the top priority of both Claudia Raznick and your city manager. And I think they've made very quick progress in getting those positions ready to be hired. And then the other key thing I think to note, you do have a statutory deadline for your audit of June 30th. That's not going to happen. You won't be the first government to have missed it. You won't be the last government to have missed it. And generally, there's another government that I'm aware of that's a pretty big government, missed it by 6 months last year because they put in a new ERP that had reporting problems. It's not great, but it happens. But we did want to make sure that it's very, very clear that you will not be making your June 30th audit statutory deadline. We're hoping for September 30th. Your staff has been in communication with the JLAC, the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee at the state. Their staff is aware of the situation. And, you know, all I can say is that everybody's going to do their best to get it out as quickly as possible, but also as correctly as possible. Because what we don't want to do is rush it and miss something big and then get even more audit findings. You will, the way audit findings work, they talk about what the situation was at the time of the audit. You will have repeat findings for 21 because those controls were still a problem. You'll probably have repeat findings for 22. We're looking at 2023 before you're looking at probably getting a clean audit again, where you don't have a whole lot of findings. But, you know, I think it's important to note that these things do happen when you have significant turnover, when you have major ERPs put in. I thank the city for recognizing the problem, for taking quick and decisive action to address it through bringing in additional resources. And I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Shuping, for all the work that you've done on this. It's truly appreciated. It's great to get a thorough sort of synopsis of where we are right now and where we expect to be. Ms. Bigby, did you have anything additional you wanted to add at this time?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Curry, as well. And I just wanted to add one more thing. We had our, and Monk, this is news to you too, we had our second strategic planning session just yesterday, and the commission unanimously agreed that this needed to be one of the top couple priorities for our organization, and the commission has let our charter officers know that they have our support and have the resources they need to address this particular issue. And there was no disagreement whatsoever amongst the commission, as well as the responsible charter officers, on getting this to where it needs to be, so we can focus on other things once it's accomplished. So I think that was good news as well. Any questions, any additional questions at this time, or are you ready to hear public comment? Go ahead, Mr. Monk.
This is probably more for April, Ms. Shuping. But if you fill successfully the slots that are open currently and are back up to full staff, in your opinion, do you think that that will be adequate staffing to prevent these issues from coming up in the future?
So I do believe that the city, thank you. I do believe that the city manager has gone forward with some recommendations for additional staff, especially in the accounting area. There are a few changes that I referred to and how some of the implementation of the ERP impacted both centralization and decentralization. That may require a little bit of additional help in 2 other areas, like just one person in each area, not significant additional staffing. I believe the city manager's already addressed some of these. Yes, I think the staffing level as recommended is sufficient. And I think more importantly, some of the requirements for things like a CPA, governmental accounting experience. Again, when things go well, those things aren't recognized how critical they are. Without having that level of finance professional somewhere in that top chain of management within finance, I think things can go a little sideways. So yes, I do. Short answer is yes. I do believe that that is sufficient staffing as recommended by the city manager. Those increments, yeah. Did you want to speak to the increments?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. We still have, Mr. Monk, Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Of course.
Mr. Monk, we still have about 4 positions that are still vacant right now, but in the 23 budget, we will be asking for increments to supplement what we currently have. And with those increments hopefully approved, we will have a full contingent, and if properly, skilled and trained, we believe we can turn it around.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monk. Thank you both. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment.
First is Nathan Scott.
Good afternoon, Mayor Poe, Commissioners, Nathan Scott. So first and foremost, I hope the media is listening and paying attention to what's going on, because this is a critical issue that's been inadequately addressed by the City Commission and you, Mayor Poe. My comments are reflected to the panel, but more importantly to our independent member of the Audit Committee, Mr. Monk, and I hope that he will provide some commentary. The fact of the matter is that the mayor and the Gainesville City Commission have a fiduciary duty to provide effective management oversight of city government. The mayor and the Gainesville City Commission have negligently failed to provide effective management oversight of city government, as evidenced by state audit findings and this memo dating back many years. There's constant excuse making. Accountability starts at the top of any organization. The City Commission and mayor are the head of city government. If you look at the memo, the detailed memo, not the 2-page summary, on page 3, states, quote, "There is no ability to determine budget to actuals for the last 17 months. The risk of overspending budget is extremely high." Yet this commission spends millions and millions of dollars at every meeting, like it's money's flying out the sky. Don't you think you should figure this out before you spend on things you haven't even budgeted, Mayor Poe? Also on page 3 of the memo, FY 2020 financial records do not match the audited financial statements. Whoa. Isn't that a problem, Mayor Poe? Commissioner Harvey Ward posts on Facebook, and you would think that he would want us to have a temporal reset. Ignore the negligence of the mayor of the Gainesville City Commission because he is the head of the finance committee that's going to fix this problem. That's ridiculous. You guys are trying to rewrite history to fit your own convenient political narrative. The only problem is it's not true. Mayor Poe, you've been on this commission 10 years. Harvey Ward's been on this commission 5 years. And you have the audacity to try and bamboozle voters and the citizens of Gainesville. The state audit report validates the concerns brought forth by well-informed citizens that the mayor and the Gainesville City Commission have negligently ignored for nearly a decade, specifically that significant management deficiencies and material weaknesses exist within the city's general government finance department. Again, what we have here is systemic excuse-making by the mayor and the Gainesville City Commission, who refuse to accept any responsibility whatsoever for their actions. You're too busy virtue signaling, making lengthy speeches, and spending your time on everything else other than core city governance. And this is the result. And you're like, oh, no, we're going to get serious about it now. Well, your excuse making for all these late audit reports, for not having a control and lack of institutional knowledge, you got people in this room that have been here for many years.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
I think
Appreciate
you're
your
lying
comments.
to us again, Mayor Poe. Thank you
very much. Discuss.
Next is Don Fields.
Don Fields. My concern is the flip side of this, which is this situation came about and has been around for at least 5 years. The document says that it was documented first then. So it must have preceded that even more. I'm concerned at this point about returning back. What were the forces? What were the things? What are the systemic things in place that would turn this city back into becoming ineffective again? I'm concerned in particular that Ms. Bigby may be fired by the next commission as the auditor was in 2017 for producing results that people didn't seem to want to, that didn't follow best accounting practices, but no one on the majority of the city commission didn't seem to want to follow and implement good accounting rules. And so the concern is just simply, what are you going to do to stop it from going back? There's another commission come in and say, well, we're just going to get rid of this. We'll let it fall into disrepute. Or does we need to have a state audit every 5 or maybe 8 years? Is that what will finally keep us in compliance? So the question is systemic. What is wrong with the system in place that may be able to turn around again? And I ask you to look at that and see what it is you were overlooking and what biases you had in place that prohibited you from implementing it at the top anyway. You are, as Mr. Scott said, the governing body. And it is your responsible to do things. And if you need staff with a long history and so on, and subject matter experts, you need to hire those people, and you need to have policies and procedures and processes in place to monitor and regulate the system that does not depend upon who is elected to office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina Fields?
Ms. Fields?
Christina Fields. The GRU report, in my mind, was the usual simplistic account of the GRU financial report. However, hearing Ms. Curry and Ms. Shupin's report was an amazing juxtaposition. The report was thorough and concise. Ms. Curry and her team has prepared a thorough analysis of the financial health of the city. The committee has prepared a clear map of 7 recommendations that need to be implemented to improve the health of this city. I could follow every single word, every single recommend. It was brilliant to me, and I really appreciate seeing and hearing reports like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Armando Grundy Gomez?
Mr. Mayor, may I have the overhead, please? So you all saw this memo from the city manager. I'm not sure if that was an executive summary or if that was her memo, but that was her memo. And then this is one that you didn't see. So this was from the city manager, from Ms. Resnick to them. It's an interoffice memo. We're going to talk about this. So I don't know why Ms. Fields said she was amazed by the summary. We're going to get into this. This you all didn't see. So I'm going to give you some feedback of what we did. We're going to talk about what we didn't see. So one, the assessment was given to an interim more than your interim city manager more than a month ago. A month ago. So if your house was on fire, are you going to wait a month to call the fire department when your house is on fire, when you know there's problems within the budget and it's in here? All the executive summary does is re-talk about what Ms. Rasnick tells you is the problem. So we're going to talk about that in a second too. So a little context. Ms. Shuping, the consultant working for Carls, Riggs, and Ingram, was to review the internal operations of this audit, and finance was the city finance director in 2017, actually prior. And in the memo from your interim city manager, it was finger pointing. This was the problem, this person was the problem, this year was the problem. I didn't say it, your interim city manager said it in your executive summary to you all. So my question is, how odd if all the problems are tied to when Ms. Shuping left, according to Ms. Curry. However, the turnover of the finance started in 2016 when Ms. Shuping was there. So Curry and Raskin should disclose that April Shuping was your finance director when all this stuff started to unravel. And with the finger pointing going on, the plan is, how do we fix this now? How do we fix this? The commission hired a seasoned ICMA seasoned manager, and to Ms. Curry's credit, that this problem, she did inherit a mess. Absolutely she did. She inherited a mess. The finance controls and unable to extrapolate Workday from your legacy system, she inherited that. Clearly she did. The problem is it's been made worse. When you have 50% of your HR department vacant and you can't fill people, you have a problem. When a lot of your finance department is decimated and you want to say, let's go blame people, and you put in somebody who was a fire chief to be your COO, make it make sense, people. Again, March 10th. And then on page 4 from Ms. Rasnick, let's go here. It says, not from me, from here, it says beginning in fiscal year 2020, the beginning balance and the end balance do not match. So here's my question to all of you. If you don't have financials that you're producing for the last 5 years and your end balance and your fund balance per begin, make it make sense how you're passing audits. Please make that make sense. The state auditor talks about it, so I'm wondering why and how we're saying we're producing things that are passing. I think it needs a lot more forensic audits of this, because this is nonsense, complete nonsense. And for the city manager's executive summary to say that, I don't know. I don't know that I believe all that.
Thank you. Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you all for your comments. So I just want to be very clear. I have never disputed, denied, or deflected from the findings of any audit we've received, including from the State Auditor General. And so to insinuate otherwise is simply not true. We have also asked from the beginning that our staff let the commission know what they need to address these. Audit findings are first and foremost a management tool. That's why we have internal audit, that's why we have external audit, and that's why we use those findings to improve the health of the organization. And so that is what we're in the process of doing, and we will do it. Thus far, throughout all of the work that has been done, there have been no findings of money missing, of any malfeasance or fraud or anything else. We are simply trying to get current with our reconciliations and deal with the implementation of our software system to get back and get fully staffed. And this is something that the commission has given our management team full support and resources to do so, and we will get there. And so I just want to be clear, you will not find any statement from me publicly or privately that has denied or disputed any findings that have been discussed today. We accept them, we have come up with a plan to address them, and we will report on a quarterly basis the progress that is being made to do such. Are there any other questions from the committee, or Commissioner Chestnut? Of course, you're welcome to offer anything. Okay, very good. And we're glad that you have chosen to do so. You're welcome at any of our meetings, of course. This was really an informational item, but we would not mind a motion that we accept this report and recommend that the full city commission receive it as well. Okay, motion, second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes unanimously, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Ms. Shuping, Ms. Rasnick, Mr. Benton. I know that you've done a lot of work with this. Ms. Curry, thank you for your update, and Ms. Bigby for your sort of oversight and guidance on this issue in the macro as well. There's other items that you're helping shepherd as well besides this, and we appreciate that. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up for general public comment?
Scott?
Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Poe. I'm going to cover a few points here that time didn't permit before. So on January 13th, 2022, the city auditor sent an email to Brian O'Brien. Several accounts were mentioned: master treasury account, unapplied recorded deposits, unbilled receivables, accounts receivable, grants receivable. Which of those accounts have been fully reconciled, and what were the amounts of any unreconciled differences? And also, if you could provide some details on what periods remain unreconciled on each of those accounts, it would be greatly appreciated. There was terminology used during the course of this meeting: mobilize as a verb to describe what should be done normally. That's just excuse making. Mayor Poe, you want to say that you've accepted responsibility in terms of corrective action in the audit report. That's fine, but let's not be revisionist. Let's not try to be revisionists of history, because when the citizens came forward and brought these concerns to you, and yeah, there was fraud, theft, and waste in city government. Shall I remind you of the Brazilian butt lift, the Parks and Recreation Department, the missing money from your parking garage? So don't lie to the people, Mayor Poe. It insults my intelligence.
I've told no lies.
Okay, whatever.
Zero lies. And I'd appreciate this woman took her life because of the public pressure she got.
You're taking my time now.
So please
You're taking my time. You're taking my time. That's over 15 seconds of my time. Okay, so again, you can distort history however you see fit. You're a politician, career politician at that, so I expect nothing less. You talked about the audit. When we brought these concerns to your attention, they were negligently ignored for nearly a decade. Okay, then when our citizens of Gainesville went to our elected representatives, Senator Perry and others, and asked them to get the state involved, you criticized those people. You criticized our elected state representatives. Okay, when the audit came forward, you said it was a witch hunt, that it was politically motivated. But what did that audit confirm, Mayor Poe? See, you're leaving out all the history, and we get caught with your pants down. Then you're like, oh yeah, we're going to deal with it now. So again, it's negligence and your lack of effective management oversight that got this city into this situation, because you're more concerned with virtue signaling, making lengthy speeches, saving the world, and focusing and spending your time on everything but the core function of city government. That's the problem with city government. That's why we have poor governance. That's why we have fiscally irresponsible spending. You're spending money, and Ms. Resnick and others are telling you don't even know what your actuals are. You're spending money you don't have, and that should come as a concern to Mr. Monk, with all due respect, because I come to every single meeting. We're going to come to city commission meeting tomorrow. You're on consent agenda. This item is going to be on the consent agenda. The commission's not even going to discuss it, the importance of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Rasnick, when we're done with general public comment, I'd like for you to respond to the accusation that we're spending money we don't have.
Page 3 of the audit report, right there in the memo, please. Narrate it verbatim.
Do we have anybody else signed up, Madam Clerk?
Joe Beatty? I know, I didn't understand you'd signed up for general public comment. Armando Grandi Gomez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Armando Grandi Gomez. So I'd rather attack systems, institutions, actions, and behaviors, Mr. Mayor. So to your credit, I do want to be cognizant of people that are no longer here to defend themselves, to your point. But that said, that cuts both ways. You talked about the lady that took her life. to employees that are no longer working here can't defend themselves in an audit report when you're pointing fingers and blaming them. Because I know all of you met with Sarah Vidal, every single one of you. And the manager was in that meeting with some of you. And when you all sat there, went across the street to the county commission, she got up there and attacked Sarah Vidal for a problem that it was not her problem to bring forth the financials when you all knew your workday, the CRM that you have that you paid millions of dollars for, when you can't extract financials and you want to talk about you're not attacking people, you attacked Sarah Vidal across the street. And it's on video. Your manager did that. And what's unconscionable is she knew, and you all knew, that you couldn't extract the financials from Workday, and you still can't. You still can't. You were working with a legacy system. Those are facts. That's not a lie. And you have Claudia Raskin trying to help you, and she worked on a legacy system at GRU. And you can't mix the two. So I find it rich that you're going to say that you're doing. And you all sit up here and gaslight when 50% of your workforce, and you have a high churn rate, and you're wondering what's going on. Miss Curry absolutely inherited a mess from from a person, her predecessor, that all of you sat up here and defended, minus Desmond Duncan Walker, minus Commissioner Chestnut. You all defended it. He was a seasoned manager, an ICMA president, and some of y'all want to play, oh, by the way, I'm Jewish, so you can play this anti-Semitic card if you want. Doesn't work. You all wanted to sit up there and say that he didn't do it. He didn't do anything when the finance house was burning down. Get out of here. Mr. Feldman was more than competent enough to have handled this. It didn't get handled, and the pressure was put on your interim city manager. And now the problem has been made worse. It's been made worse. And the only thing that she can do is call one of the commissioners, the county commissioner, say, we can't extract our financials. It's going to take some time. Instead of telling them, hey, our CRM system is just not functional because we don't have a finance director, which Ms. Ramos was over, who's on the 4th floor. I mean, we could point fingers for days. How are we going to fix it? And you can't say, I'm going to fire all white people and hire just all black people. That's not going to do it. And I mean, this is the kind of nonsense we're dealing with. And you all want to sit here and say we're not doing. You could sit up here and try to revision this. And Nathan is right about that. I'm sorry. He is. And then some of you all run for office and say, we're going to do things better. The house it's a dumpster fire over here. This organization is a shell of what it was. And credit to Miss Bigby for trying to find out what's going on and how we fix the culture. Credit to her. But, you all did do that. You put finger blaming on people that are not here. Diane Wilson was not responsible for the disaster in the finance department. But you all want to blame her. Interesting. Goodbye.
I want to thank all of the city employees who work so incredibly hard every day and do the best job they can. The people on this dais appreciate that. Next speaker, please.
Joe Beatty?
Good afternoon. Welcome, Mr. Monk. Glad to see you here, Ms. Chestnut. And Mr. Mayor, I was listening to this at home trying to get my work done and on my way down here. I find it just incredible that you have for years, Mr. Mayor, put SPAN on everything that's happened. Citizens asked for the state to come in and audit things because we knew there were things that were wrong, things that weren't being done right. When the state decided that they were looking at it and they were going to audit it, there was a letter from you, Mayor Poe, and from Mr. Feldman telling them there was no need to do this. There's no need to do this because everything was fine here. Mr. Feldman had only been, I think, on the payroll for a month at that point, and so he certainly hadn't had time to even dig in when he wrote the letter under whose direction, I don't know, whether it was his own. But you sit here and you say, this is just informational, we're going to file it, and nobody's hiding anything. Mr. O'Brien, I think it was in 2019, about the 2018 audit, was trying to get the audit report ahead of time so he could go through it. He was given it hot off the press an hour before the meeting after public records requests. You have been hiding things from the public. You've been slow walking public records requests. You've been spinning our comments. You've been negating citizens like Mr. Scott and others who have been here often trying to point out and trying to keep disasters from happening, yet we get minimized as, the people that are just an itch. They're in there all the time and they just say the same thing. Well, it looks like the things that Mr. Scott and others and those of us that wanted the audit, they've been confirmed. And you sit here and you say, it's okay, we'll file it. Now I'm asking, I expect one of you two, and maybe both of you, to make sure that tomorrow this audit report does not wind up on the consent agenda where you spend millions of dollars despite citizens asking you to pull items off the agenda and address them so that we can know publicly. You have filed these audits on the consent agenda for the last couple of years. Please, please, commissioners, make a motion. You only should have to ask it. The mayor's told before, any commissioner who wants something off consent agenda,
Thank you, Ms. Beatty.
it will be pulled.
Thank you
And
very
don't
much.
stop me before my time
Your
is
time
up. Please,
is over.
Mr. Mayor.
Your time
No.
is done. It has
So,
expired.
thank you.
Ms.
I hope
Beatty.
you will listen.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Thank you for coming down. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody else?
Not that I'm aware of, unless anyone else would like to speak.
Are we spending money we don't have? I'd like to know how that trick works. Could we have order, please? Could we have order, please? Ms. Rasnick?
So first, I'd like to just take a moment and talk about the team that's been in place and the people that are working on this process. So general government finance, the people that are sitting in the chairs and doing the work in finance and in budget, and budget's been pulled out into strategic planning, have been working diligently through this whole process through the past few years and even the past couple of months. If you can imagine what it's like to have, a team to come in to help them. The issues are localized within the accounting division of general government finance. I have been so pleased and proud on how those people have responded to having people come in like myself, April, Mark, Lynn, et cetera, to help, and they're doing a fantastic job. I've also been so pleased and proud for the staff at the utility that have stepped up to the plate and said, we want to help with this process. So to answer the specific question on whether we're spending money that we don't have, when the accounting records are not complete and have not been reconciled, it is difficult to say with any certainty that the budget has not been exceeded. The budget office is completing their own reconciliations to monitor on a frequent basis. This is the team effort that people are putting together to try to make sure that what's being reported is as close as possible, but we have some issues with the actuals. So I'm going to repeat what was said by Ms. Curry. It takes time to fix something like this, and we need the support of everybody. It's the employees, it's the audit committee, it's the commission, and quite honestly, it's the public. We're trying to get this fixed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. One, real quick, Ms. Rasnick. Mr. Scott said definitively, we are spending money we don't have. Is there any evidence of that?
Can I hold that?
Yeah, this is the quote. There's memo 2 quotes right there.
Mr. Scott said we are spending money we don't have.
So what the memo states is there is no ability to determine if the budget to actuals for the last 17 months, it's cut off, but it's not accurate. So the risk of overspending budget is extremely high. That's what it says.
So there is a risk, but there is no evidence
There's
that
no
we have spent
evidence.
money we don't have.
There's no evidence.
Absolutely not.
There's no evidence that you
Thank
have.
you.
You don't have actuals there, though. 17 months.
You can't prove a negative.
You
This,
can't prove I'm negative.
okay, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott,
You can just.
I understand that you have a public right to free speech, and you can come up and insult the work that is being done. I do not think you understand what a devastating impact that has to the people trying to carry this out. You think you're attacking me. You're attacking the, wait, okay, one more outburst. I'm gonna rule you that you are in violation of our rules. You are prohibiting the orderly running of this meeting. And I'm gonna ask the Sergeant at Arms to take action. These outbursts have got to stop, Mr. Scott. I'm gonna defend our workforce. I'm gonna defend the work that's done. I have fully accepted and pledged my support to our staff to address every one of these audit findings. We are taking them seriously. We are making progress. And we are going to get to a point where the city is in a much better position. Attacking us and the work that is being done is only counterproductive to that. So if you want a better organization, if you want a better process, then you need to allow us to do the work. And I would say be thankful to the people that are doing it. Is there any other member comment? Okay, our next meeting will be June 14th of 2022. We will get our quarterly update at that time. Thank you all. We are adjourned.